There we are. I think that we're live now with my. This is Prince of Queens, and I have not started drinking yet. People who have maybe checked out my streams before, they're used to me being drunk. It's kind of a running joke. But I'm gonna start drinking and having a luau with my friend Adrienne, or pen pal. Oh God, I forgot to mute my actual window yet. So um yeah. My pen pal Adrian, this is the first time I've chatted with her, so I guess after tonight we'll probably be friends. But Adrian and I share a lot in common because she grew up you grew up in the Northwest, right?
Mostly, yeah.
Yeah. I grew up in the Northwest, and she's currently living in Portland, and have both been involved in the music scene, though those sort of different aspects. You've been a little bit more of a rock kid, and I've been a little bit more of a electronic music kid. But I've been largely indie electronic music, which I don't really talk about on my channel a whole bunch. But basically, the purpose of this stream, she sent me an essay that she wrote for a class that it was about an experience that she had sort of gotten into in the comment section of my videos. I'm one of the people that reads almost every single one of my comments. So if you're watching this, make sure to leave comments and stuff, because I read them and I respond to them. At this point, my channel's grown significantly over the past just 2 weeks. So I'm going to lose track, but please do. And she started telling me these stories, and then she asked if I would want to read essay of hers. Turned out to be a very, very fascinating story, and I really wanted to have her on my channel so that she could tell the story to all of you people, basically. So I'm going to give a little bit of a brief. I kind of want to just have first. I think we should talk about you and I growing up in the Northwest and the music scene, and as it related to feminism, because I was always cool with feminists. I was a little gay boy, and so I had all these like little lesbian riot girl friends, and I went to not Homo a Go-Go, but Yo-Yo a Go-Go in Olympia, Washington. You know what that is, right?
I have not heard of that. I was on the other side of the state in that time.
Oh, okay. Well, in the late 90s, or maybe all through the 90s, they had Olympia, Washington indie kind of, punk rocky festival type thing, and it was called Yo-Yo a Go-Go, and a lot of girl bands, but it wasn't entirely. It wasn't, but there was a lot of that, Bratmobile, and I'm sure like Team Dresch, and I went in like 1999 or something. So a lot of that stuff was over, but it still had the same crowd. And like that was what feminism was to me, was these people, but it was a countercultural kind of thing. But it wasn't a huge part of my life, and I definitely noticed that I didn't really fit in as a guy at all. There wasn't a lot of gay guys, but they were fine. They were fine with me generally. There was a few man haters, you could tell. But what was your experience growing up?
Well, I got to be at least 5 years older than you are.
Mm-hmm.
I had my first girl band in 1995 in Moses Lake, Washington, little farm town.
Mm-hmm.
And we grew up on the farm, tomboys, whatever. And in junior high, my cousin had introduced me to Bikini Kill. And we grew up as children of musicians, so it was just in our blood. And I was like, oh, we're going to do this. And so we did. And because of Bikini Kill and that Olympia scene and those girls, screaming about whatever they wanted, it never occurred to us that we couldn't do it. We just knew we could. So, I mean, I have a lot of respect for the Riot Girl movement.
Yeah.
I've never considered myself a feminist, but I always kind of felt like they already had accomplished everything I wanted to do. So,
yeah, and I mean, I never considered myself a feminist, but I always thought that I felt like in the 90s there was still like a point to being a feminist, and I guess what you're saying is sort of how it was like, okay, if you guys want to be feminists and be badass chicks, cool, that's fine. It doesn't really, I don't have any need to, call myself a feminist. And they didn't demand that you did.
Never. And that was what was great about it. I could get up there. I also was heavily influenced by bands like El Duce, and which was also from the Northwest, the Mentors that just said terrible things. I just thought it was hilarious that, people did that. So I kind of combined the two in
Hmm.
my own music.
Hmm.
And I always get told, oh, well, you get up there and, you sing about beer pussy and all these things, and you're a feminist. And I'm like, well, that's not really fair. They just kind of shove that on me.
Yeah. Sorry,
And
I just took a shot.
good.
Mm.
Take one for me, too.
Okay, hold on. We'll keep talking while I do that.
Oh, well, I was distracted by whiskey. I miss those days. But yeah, even once I moved to Spokane, there was still quite a few women in the music scene. And I mean, not like a ton of girl bands. I was sort of in the middle of the Riot Girl thing, and then like, I don't know, a lot of the girls in my age range were doing other things. So it was really hard, but I put a girl band together and we stuck through it for about 6 years. I had a lot of different members, but I don't know. I don't think being a woman should mean that I'm a feminist. I find that really irritating.
I think more and more women are starting to realize that. Um, yeah, definitely. It's though occasionally you run into the person that's totally cool and you think that she gets that and she's like not a feminist, and then all of a sudden she drinks the Kool-Aid and next month she's like, what? And you're like, whoa, I didn't think that was it happened to you. I didn't think we were gonna lose you to the cult. So I mean, who knows? Maybe it'll get worse
Well, like you
because
said, you could live in the same like in the 90s. I'm not so sure so much of the late 90s because I was older and I ended up being pregnant or whatever. But like nobody gave a shit what you labeled yourself as. There were all these like groups in the 90s, and like any of the alternative kids, at least where I was living, we were all friends on some level. We commingled. Maybe they were Magic players. But it wasn't like so label focused. It was more like just because the labels, helped you define who you were talking about. It wasn't like it didn't define who the people were so intensely like it is now.
no, totally. Well, yeah, and like in the 90s, it was like countercultures were so separate. Like if you were a raver, you were a punk, or you were a goth, it was, you like would sort of stick to that group. But then there was like everybody was sort of like the alternative kids, and you would be sort of friends with the other ones, but it was everybody tried to really differentiate and be like, I'm this, I'm that. Now everything is just this weird hodgepodge. But I don't know, people are starting to we're at a very, very strange point in culture. I mean, we're just finally fully feeling the effects of social media starting to fully influence the masses just right now. So it's such a different thing than the 90s. And feminism, we both talk about the difference between third and fourth wave feminism, and what I think the major way to just simply describe it was third wave feminism was, they were just coming up with the theories then. It was just theories and stuff, and it it didn't have an identity yet. It was sort of, like they were just making it up as they went along, and the rocker feminists, they were underground. They passed around photocopied zines, like little pamphlets. Those girls probably didn't even know how to use the internet. They were just like badass rocker chicks.
There
Because I
was
mean,
no, but there was no internet. Like,
yeah, that too. I mean,
if there was, it
they're
wasn't
kind of,
accessible to us because like I didn't even have an email address
well,
until
yeah. My dad was a computer scientist, so I was like,
uh,
yeah, like my eldest sister is like 9 years older, and she was like probably like a hacker in the late '80s. So,
yeah,
but
that's not commonplace. I've met
no, not at all. Yeah.
I've met
Um,
people like that, but in the 90s, no, we were like that was straight up hand drawings. Like even the flyers back then, people put so much heart into.
I miss those fucking flyers. I
I'll send you
still.
a couple. I have my bass player in Spokane used to if I had like a really big rockabilly show coming up in Spokane and I wanted to make sure I could pay the bands, like if I had a guarantee, I would get him to hand draw a flyer, and it always brought out more people. It was awesome.
I was making hand drawn flyers like in San Francisco probably up until like 2012 or so. I don't know when I really stopped doing them, but when I would have shows, I would almost always make I would almost always make the flyer because I felt like it, and I would they would be it would always be black and white, and I would sometimes put a little bit of text, and then I'd like draw with a Sharpie, and I like to draw on t-shirts. It's something I've been doing for probably like almost I don't know, probably 12 years or so, and I've sell them and stuff a lot. Like I probably sold a good like 50 t-shirts that I hand drew on, and which that comes to a lot if you've actually hand drawn on t-shirts. It's not as easy as you think. So yeah, I don't know. I love that DIY culture. I've always been into
Oh,
that.
so do I. I just had somebody offer me money for this vest I made. I can't draw to save my life, but I hand stitch and like put together just the old punk rock vests. I like to make them for my daughter because she
Mhm.
looks so badass and she's 7. It's just awesome.
Yeah, and like that this stuff was part of what most people knew as feminism in the 90s.
We
Like
were too busy to be such a bunch of pussies.
yeah, and it was like, and then some girls were really into it, and some girls got a little bit crazy, and these were probably the girls that I hate to say it, they probably had like abuse issues or something, and they were like they were like actually reading the Audre Lorde books all the time and shit. But you were still able to like be friends with them, and it was like, oh yeah, fucking Angela, just she's really into that shit. It's just, but she's cool. You know what I mean? Like you could ignore it, and then and
I
then they
was
would
probably that girl.
no
Not
no
on
no
the feminist level, but just that could be kind of intense to be around.
oh yeah, but then they would also have they'd have like women's self defense classes and shit, and like it was and
Because
like
that makes sense.
yeah and the girl bands would throw benefits for like Home Alive. Do you know what that is?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Home Alive was this organization that was in the Northwest that would it was all about women's self-defense basically, and the girl bands would have benefits, like shows that were benefits for Home Alive and stuff like that, and it was a part of the culture, and now that is demonized as victim blaming. Like I have not heard of a fucking women's self-defense class like since the 90s basically. Like it's
It's
like
so bananas. It's
I know.
absolutely like I'm a bartender too, so I'm like out and have been throughout my whole life late at night. And thank God I haven't had many problems.
Hmm.
But any problems I have run into have always been after making bad choices. And telling young girls that it's not about your choices, it's about the other people just is really dangerous. And
Yeah, it's about them. They haven't read enough everyday feminism, and that's the problem. It's like, oh, please, like you got to be able to, yeah, make good choices and fucking defend. I mean, man, these fucking girls, like some of those. I don't want to be a sadistic person, but like, there's a part of me that almost not like wishes, but would love to see them even in a fight with another girl. Like those
no,
girls
I
with
absolutely
the
agree with
with
you.
the with the pale, like the girls who dye their hair the pastels, and they shave half of like the side of their head, and they're have a septum piercing and everything. Like, what would they do if they threw down with like a badass like Latina chick? Like, what would happen? And like and then you take that, what would happen if a guy tried to mess with them? Like, they would have no idea, and that's really awful. And the women, at least in the 90s, everyone complains about third wave feminism, but at least third wave feminism accepted that. So yeah, that's my feeling. I think we should sort of move on to your whole story. So I want to give the audience, the few viewers that we have, but people can watch this later, um what happened with Adrienne is that you ended up doing a whole bunch of shows and having a rock career and playing in several bands and stuff. And you ended up in Portland, and correct me if I'm wrong about anything, but I'm trying to fast forward to this story that got me so interested. You ended up organizing a lot of events, and you did work with queer people, like you worked with lesbians and I it used to be that queer was the umbrella term for everybody who wasn't straight, but then it became an umbrella term for it would include straight people. It was weird.
I,
um
I don't understand that either. My first girl band, my cousin was my bass player, and she's a lesbian. I would have to say that most of the girls in that band were at least bisexual. We had quite a tough little badass group of girls in high school for being little, in Little Moses Lake. So I would have to say my entire life has been involved. I mean, especially myself being bisexual. I mean, that's always been an element of my booking. But mostly for me, it wasn't a feminist thing. It was more like I looked at the women like Kathleen Hanna that had come from my state before me, and I'm like, man, I had to work pretty hard too to get where I was, just not as hard. I didn't have the same problems. And so I was like, well, I tried to give opportunities to anybody I could. I was pretty well known in Spokane by a couple of people for
mhm.
putting just so many people on stage. Like I had this method to where I at least had one slot on every show that I could give to a new band or
See, that's such an
just like,
awesome. That's so awesome. I appreciate you so much for that because I was kind of like that. I like to think in the Bay Area, and because I was a gay drum and bass DJ in the '90s, in the late '90s and early 2000s. I don't know if you know much about drum and bass.
I
Um,
can't say that I do.
okay, so it's like the metal of electronic music, basically, kind of, and it's really fast and really complicated, and it's very
Oh,
aggressive.
I think I saw a video with my son about that the other day. I think I do know what that is.
Yeah, and it's very competitive. Like the people that were, and it was like unheard of to be a gay guy, drum and bass DJ, So I dealt with a lot of strife. Like I would play gigs, like I would get booked at a big rave, and like for the first 15 minutes, there'd be a circle of like 15 dudes. They'd just come up right up and just stare at me like they're just like waiting for me to like fuck up my mixing. This was vinyl. This was like when it was hard to be a DJ, and it was so competitive, and so I had to deal with that. And then I moved to the Bay Area where everybody was queer, and I ended up doing a whole lot of music and a lot of collaborative projects, and then very quickly starting to throw shows, like within a year I was throwing shows. So I was really, really big on networking and getting people to play, and that was really important to me. And I built a lot of community, and people did for a long time really appreciate that. And so I appreciate that you do that too. We have that in common.
Well, that's what it's supposed to be about. See, I thought.
Yeah, I
I
thought.
my dad, he was like he was in these cover bands. I think he was done in original bands by the time I had been old enough to start paying attention. And he used to tour. I grew up on the road with him on tour when I was super young, and everything had changed so much. Like all I ever wanted was to just have like this cool punk rock band, but it's so much more fun when tons of people come to your shows.
Yeah.
So, like the best way to do that is to get like the right bands that have different draws, and then you get new people to meet each other and
Hmm.
build, bigger and bigger. Like in my paper, the teacher had put me like tried to say that bringing in drag queens or dancers, belly dancers, burlesque dancers didn't count. And for me, I felt like anybody in the art scene, if you could find a way to put a show together.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah, we had the most diverse, crazy. I mean, actually, in San Francisco Bay Area, like, to the point where we booked too many people, and we would have these like 3 hour long shows of like nonstop performances, and it was just like, okay, we should have toned it down a little bit. But yeah, there was this period, and it was really awesome, and we had a whole bunch of fun and everything. And then things sort of started to change. I am under the impression, like, I will say it, like, okay, first of all, the music industry died. It became impossible to make money in terms of in people just couldn't support themselves, and people couldn't afford to live in cultural centers very much. So there's always that. But then now, over the past, 3 or 4 years, especially, identity politics has started to rule culture, and it started to even rule the music scene. And it's to the point where if you're queer, you're not cool unless you're like a trans person of color, in particular a trans woman of color. Like, that's the only way to actually be considered, just inherently cool. And they have these shows that are like, just booking, queer people of color, or just booking trans people, or blah blah blah. Basically, it almost always tries to exclude white cisgender queer people, as in particular gay men. Like, gay men are, we get shafted in the queer scene now. Like really, they
You
fucking,
say that like it's a bad thing.
yeah, yeah, but they know they fucking hate us. And it, I feel like it's really ruined a lot of culture, because it's like, hey, like, the biggest percentage of queer people, like this, the biggest slice of the queer pie is white gay men. Like, there's more male cisgender male homosexuals or bisexuals than there are females, just statistically. That's a true statistic. And there are more white people. So by eliminating white gay men from people who count as queer enough, and like stopping to book them at shows, like, the only person in Portland that is like a white gay male that does stuff is like Logan Lynn, um and he's fine, but he's not really my favorite thing. I almost remixed one of his songs, but I never followed up on it. Anyhow, it got really weird, identity politics. And then it got to the point where you were doing one of your events, and you decided to throw a lesbian luau.
Tell me that's not beautiful alliteration. Come on.
Yeah, and and it's a fun thing. It's a I don't even really know much about luau's personally.
Well, I actually investigated it, of course, after I was accused of some pretty heinous stuff. And ironically, it had something to do with one of the, I don't remember any of the names, and don't quote me on this, but like women being invited to the table at festivities and parties. And then the king at the time had changed that and called them luau's from then on. They're really, it's just a party with food and entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that I had done with the lesbian luau was either female or lesbian musicians. I was going to do a different theme every month. I feel like themes bring people out. It's a little more fun. Everybody loves to dress up, especially if they can wear almost nothing and go to the bar. I know I've been a bartender forever. I see what brings people in the door. I was just trying to try something new, drum up some more business for where I worked.
And how many parties that were like that would you throw a year, would you say?
That were themed or queer?
Yeah, or themed or queer or whatever. Like, just as at all similar to that. Like, how many did you throw a year?
At that time, I would say I had at least one female queer type show a month. I don't remember the exact dates of when it started or ended. And then in my own band, we were a queer psychobilly band. So if that counts, I booked us all the time. So there was anywhere we played.
Yeah.
Well, I think
okay, but even that's a substantive amount of events. Like, you were providing culture to the queer scene. Like, one a month is good. Like, that's, you're really actually really contributing something, and it's positive. Like, you are providing a space for people to be queer and to meet each other, and that's what it should be all about. And like, people are more than welcome to criticize and say, like, hey, maybe you shouldn't try to like do something cultural that you don't know that much about, or blah 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 blah. But that's not what they do.
Well,
it was not merely criticizing you. It was not.
There was another luau the same summer that nobody said anything about. I believe that was at a different bar. I won't name them, just not to drag them into the mud. but
Mhm.
it certainly wasn't thrown by Polynesian people or whatever they were demanding. It's kind of funny though, because one of the first people to RSVP had been a Hawaiian lesbian, just ironically, and she was just amped beyond belief.
Yeah, it's always like that. The people who like I mean, not always, but like like Japanese people totally don't care if white people wear kimonos. They're like, why would we care? That's our like we, like. But okay, so yeah, keep going.
Um, oh boy, I forgot where I was at.
No, someone RSVP'd and
Yeah. So in the beginning, when I first started the luau, it was kind of fun because, like I said, I had wanted to do this. Okay, so like a different queer night had been started where I worked and didn't work out, so it got handed to me. I actually was asked to do this by the venue. It wasn't something that I had like offered to do.
mhm.
Anyways, I had somebody in charge of like doing traditional luau games. My boss was a cook. She was trying to do traditional foods. We were actually working really hard to make it kind of traditional.
Yeah, that
Not,
sounds
not
awesome.
because people are upset, but that was just, we just wanted it to be awesome.
Yeah.
I had a band called Broken Bodies on the bill, and that was one of the things that had initially upset some of the SJWs, is because they thought it was some kind of pun about people being killed in Hawaii some time ago.
Oh my God, they were really trying. They were bending over backwards to be offended.
Yeah,
It's like,
well,
oh yeah,
I was kind of sad because that band's really awesome. They do a lot of Misfits. They're just great chicks, and they're all lesbians. I'm pretty sure all three of them are, and they're just punk rock, and they're like our age, a little older maybe, and so chill. Totally don't deserve that,
hmm
because everybody got drugged down sort of with me. I chose not to say much in the event. I had over 200 people RSVP'd, and that's twice the capacity of the bar I was working in. So it was the biggest show I'd ever done in Portland. So I was pretty excited. And then a local booker who also does queer events had come in and literally lit the match, threw it on the fire, and disappeared. Like he said something, and then all these people just started attacking. And at first, I
wait,
deleted
wait,
the.
wait, back it up. Was this
Yeah,
during the event or was this on Facebook?
this was on Facebook in the event invite.
Okay, so they're trying to just sabotage.
Well, yeah, yeah. But the guy had an event planned the same night as mine. I don't know if he
Oh,
felt
for fuck's sake.
if I felt my event was it was quite different than what he was doing, and I have never been to his sort of event. From what I could see, they look quite popular. I don't know why he'd care about what I'm doing, but
Are you not going to say his name?
I don't actually know it. But no, I am not, because
Okay, that's fine. I don't need you to stir up unnecessary trouble for yourself.
well, right, it's not really my style anyways. I just wanted to, have a cool party and get people excited about women in music and coming to where I was working, because I worked in a great little place. And of course, this nonsense, a few months later, the place closed. So, I mean, they're just smothering. Like, you got to stop with this because you're going to have nowhere to hang out. Like, how come nobody understands that?
Yeah, yeah. So, um, things progressed in the drama department after he made a post on Facebook.
Or he just posted inside my event, and then all the people came from everywhere
Oh
into my
God.
event.
And how did that pan out? Like, what type of things were they saying?
Well, they were calling me the straight white girl with a boyfriend. I don't know why. That was just
Because they know everything about you from Facebook, from your Facebook profile photo,
well.
probably.
If they had investigated my Facebook profile, they would have learned a lot differently. But yeah, they of course the racist bomb was dropped everywhere, and I'm just like, I still don't understand how that could possibly be racist. It's like, who throws a luau and then sits around to laugh at Hawaiian people? It's the most absurd thing I've ever heard.
The Northwest is particular about white people calling other white people racist. They love it here. It's like it's the thing, it's the thing to do. And I think it's a projection like, oh, maybe they won't call me racist. because I only have white friends if I call everybody else racist, you know? And yeah.
I wouldn't understand that mindset because I don't have all white friends. I never have, and
Yeah,
it's
me neither.
rare. I'm not one of those little middle class white princesses that feels guilty for breathing. I'm just not.
Yeah, my oldest friend that I'm still friends with since the fourth grade is Asian. So it was always, and like a lot of our friends were Asian or black or fucking whatever. And so it was always kind of like, that was never something I had to think about very much. That maybe I'm secretly racist, you know. Like, I'm gonna mute my mic for a second. So, but talk more about how the drama escalated while I do that. I just have to go to the bathroom.
Oh, okay. Um, well, yeah, people were fighting inside my event and getting pretty nasty. I had an old friend from junior high try to come and defend me, and they went to his profile and accused him of all kinds of bizarre things, commenting on pictures and what have you. Um, the Willamette Week and a few other online publications picked up the story and basically just reiterated what had happened online. At that point, my event had moved from the first venue to another, to one I didn't work at. Not because of this situation, but because of conflict behind the scenes that had nothing to do with it. So I had moved it to a second gay bar, and apparently they had been attacked in the past by the social justice types, calling them racist over, I can't remember if it was a drag night or something of that nature. Anyways, so they were brought out and called that on their Facebook page. I had gone to the fair with my daughter and picked up a gay pride flag for the party. It had lots of hearts and stuff on it, and my daughter absolutely loved this flag. And so I bought it, and there was a Confederate flag hanging behind me in this flag shop. And so that further
uh,
that
guilt
further
by association.
well, I have something to admit on that note. I knew that Confederate flag was in the background of the picture. I knew it when I took the picture, and I knew it when I posted it on Facebook. I was just irritated and pissed off by how ludicrous the whole situation was. And the girl at the flag place was absolutely thought my event was the coolest idea and totally hooked me up on the flag. And she's like, just promote our shop and I'll give you this flag for super cheap. And I'm like, okay. I got their name out there, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So did your event end up being canceled? Was that what happened?
Well, on social media, it was said that it was canceled, but the show did actually happen.
Uh-huh.
Um,
And was it a success?
I would say, considering all the drama, the venue had decided to ditch the luau attire entirely, but wanted to still keep the bands. And quite a few people showed up, more than I had anticipated. But I mean, I had really good musicians booked, and I think that my personal support was pretty tight at the time too. So I had a good group of people just come support me out of solidarity. In fact, a few came out in leis and well, you know how the gay boys are. You can't tell them they can dress up and just take it away.
Sorry, another shot. So then afterwards, there was a big long period of fallout. It did not end with your event at all, did it? Apparently, people wanted more from you. And wait, can I have a question? Did you ever apologize to these people during the course of it?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. So that's interesting because one of the things that in anti-SJW culture, there's a wonderful video called "Never Apologize to SJWs" by Mr. Medicare that people should watch if they haven't watched it before. And this is something that I stand by at this point in culture. If you ever apologize to these people, they will usually take it as a sign to continue the attacks, and maybe sometimes even make the attacks worse. But at the same time, if they're already trying to take you down, if you don't apologize, then they're going to keep going anyway. So I mean, you're kind of screwed either way. If you're in a big SJW place and they make it a campaign, they're going to go no matter what, and it doesn't matter if you apologize, really. But they're not going to they're not going to stick to simply whatever the thing that offended them was. They're going to take it a step further usually, and they're going to start doing things like potentially coming after your career.
Well, yeah, I didn't really see how I could apologize. What was I supposed to say? I'm supposed to explain to a bunch of strangers my sexuality. I didn't think that should be necessary or something that I should have to wear on my shirt to book a show. It's just stupid. Um, and it's like personal. It's like that's not. It's about music, and I knew I wasn't doing anything wrong, so. I think I may have seen that video because I watched something or read something that said that you shouldn't apologize. That made me feel a little better. It's hard when you're having really terrible things flung your way, like people calling you racist, sexist, bigot, all these horrifying words that all of a sudden are so popular. It's hard not to just feel guilty, but it's like you have to be real too. Like I'm just not that person. I throw shows, I book bands, like
Yeah, yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, and you didn't sign up for some sort of, you know, debate in this way. And yeah, I totally understand that. But didn't they sort of try to like fuck with your employment as a bartender and stuff?
Well, yeah, I've got the story a little jumbled. A lot of stuff happened in a short period of time. Before they came on, before other ones had come on to the event, I had a group of 3 people come into the bar and I had invited them to the luau. Well, one of these people happened to be a trans man. This person was about 22 or 23 years old, and I had to card them, and I was iffy on the ID, and it was because of a youthful face. It wouldn't be
Hmm.
the first trans person I knew. I wasn't shocked by that, but I can't have an underage person in my bar.
Hmm.
But because I had invited them to a lesbian luau, that encouraged them to call and email my boss saying that I was transphobic and
Because you
um,
carded them.
yeah, and because like it's non-inclusive because the party was called a lesbian luau, and they had said something to me about it that night, and I was just like, well, I don't really understand. It's just when you book a show and you give it a cool name, more people come. It's just I've named all kinds of shows. It didn't mean only lesbians were invited. That's bizarre.
Wow.
It was a luau where we would celebrate lesbians. We can all celebrate lesbians together, can't we? I mean, it's just another reason to drink, really.
God, yeah, Portland is mad. You know, it's the Portland as compared to some of the other cities in the Northwest, like Olympia or Seattle or Eugene. I would say Portland probably has the most SJWs and like, rabid, insane feminists. But like the thing is about places like Olympia. Well, no, Olympia, the scene there seems pretty similar to Portland in the way that there's a lot of kind of like, DIY punk rockers who are really into it. Seattle ones seem to be very like mobilized, and there's a lot of like, people who actually get paid to be SJWs, and that's very weird. But whereas Portland, it's just kind of like it seems like the average there's so many people who are like they're just doing this that's because that's what people in Portland kind of do. They just get offended, and they um you know they demand that everybody, it's part of the culture.
Yeah, I would say, and these girls are appropriating the shit out of old punk rock looks. And when I see them make eye contact with me in public, I'm like, I'm not one of you. I'm not one of you. Like, don't talk to me. Oh my God, I can't handle it. It's made me paranoid to just be out and about over there. Because, I have the old school cat eye glasses or whatever, but
Hmm.
it's just because I still dress the same as I did when I was 22, I guess.
Uh-huh.
But it's very uneasy. I don't know. I have a cousin in Seattle, and she is an SJW, and it did seem more like petitions and a little more organized, or I don't know, a lot less complaining, I guess. Like, she always wanted to motivate people to do things, which I can be supportive of. But if I asked her about her intentions behind it, it was not an easy conversation ever.
Yeah, I would say one of the things about Seattle as compared to Portland is that Seattle has, I mean, it's much higher cost of living in Seattle, from what I understand in general. And there's a much bigger tech industry in Seattle. And so, but Seattle has been a countercultural, social justicey type mecca since the 90s or the late 80s or so. And so the people who are still in Seattle, there's a long history of sort of like organizing and doing activism. And there's people who kind of get paid to do that. And it's sort of to maybe almost to counterbalance the tech industry, which everybody thinks, took over Seattle. And I don't know why people are even in Seattle to still be all SJW like in a lot of ways. But it's really well. And also Seattle has the Stranger newspaper, which is it's super tries like really like really hard to be all social justicey and fall all over itself to be feminist and everything. And they have stupid things that come out of it, like did you hear about the Shout Your Abortion campaign?
Oh yeah, it's fabulous.
That came from Seattle. And I find what I made a video about it. I find it kind of a shame. It's like I'm definitely very pro-choice, but at the same time it's like Shout Your Abortion is basically a bunch of upper middle class to upper middle class. I don't like to use the word privileged, but they women who came from Seattle, a place where you can easily get an abortion, making a hashtag that gets spread around, the whole world, bragging about the abortions they have had for the sake of it. When the people that have to worry about abortions are in states like Oklahoma or Georgia, and it's like, hey, you guys, when you brag about the abortions you've had, that is going to mobilize the pro-life people.
Oh
And
yeah. Oh yeah. Well, you do have like the Seattle scene is definitely full of more privileged princesses. I would say Portland has more of the self-diagnosed mentally ill non-binary other kids.
okay, yeah, I can imagine that. And also also just a lot of like gutter punks and shit, like, right?
Well, yeah, there's a really good punk scene too. Sometimes I can't tell the difference, but the punk rockers are super cool. I
Hmm.
don't I don't see that scene a lot. When I was in my band, we were more in rockabilly shows and stuff. We've played a couple punk shows, and the people are always great. Very laid back, very diverse.
Hmm.
What's great about Seattle though is like we'd come up and play these rockabilly shows and just be a band full of queers,
Hmm.
and they were always so cool. Like, we always had so much fun with everybody. It was never an issue until we got around other queer people.
Huh. In Seattle, you mean?
Well, we never played queer shows in Seattle, but just in general, the
Hmm.
rockabilly scene here or there, like, nobody really cares. It's not an issue. But then, like, I don't know, it gets all like, I threw Valentine's Gay a couple years ago, and it was super fun. But I don't know, people are just kind of snarky, and that's when they get along.
Hmm. Well, so do you was is that the end of the story about your whole experience with that luau show, or did they? I felt like maybe you said that they took it a few steps further, trying to smear you around Portland.
Well, I quit my job because I felt like the venue didn't stand up for me. I was actually pulled off queer events after that at our venue. It wasn't because they agreed with these people; they were just so afraid of more crap coming their way.
Mm,
There were quite a few other shows and places that have gotten it to around Portland. I felt like after it happened to me, I saw one place after another going
yeah,
down. They had circulated a flyer about me though.
yeah. Tell us about that flyer because that sounded really fucked up.
The flyer was, let me see, I think I have it on my desktop here.
Okay, so while you're finding that, Adrienne Hitchcock, who I'm talking to, she got attacked for throwing a lesbian luau. They said that she was. They said everything about her. They said she was racist. They said that she was, I don't know, not queer enough or whatever, because they thought she was straight, even though she's not. And then they decided to actually make a flyer about. And so this is somebody who wasn't just, like throwing a one party or was in a band, but you were in bands and you regularly threw events and you were a bartender. This was your whole career.
Yeah, it was my whole life. Yeah, this whole thing was quite a punch to the gut. I mean, not because I give a shit what these morons think, but just because like it put me in a corner. I had to just fly under the radar after that.
Hmm.
But well, I'll review the flyer. It does really go into a lot of their issues with my situation. This is not in our communities. Queers, people of color, and white accomplices ask that you not attend the following event: Lesbian Luau Beach Party. The beach party had been added against my will, by the way. Just saying, I wanted to keep the lesbian luau the way it was. On August 14th, this was 2015, just a little over a year ago. And it says, why not? Silencing and ignoring community concern. The organizers of this party and the local lounge have ignored community concerns about this event, deleting comments and blocking individuals who ask questions or offered critique, and they have continued to offer excuses for the event instead of being accountable. Native Hawaiians, other people of color, and white accomplices have ignored and degraded as they raise concerns about the theme of the event and other racist imagery that has been posted on Facebook. An image containing the Confederate flag. People in luau beach attire, I guess, was racist too. The local lounge page actually got hacked, I guess, and they weren't able to reply to any of the stuff that was being posted on their page. They actually tried to talk to the people more than I did. And so they ended up getting a lot more flack than they deserved because they really just picked up a show last minute. They weren't really involved with much of it, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Cultural appropriation. Love that. Native Hawaiians fight daily to reclaim their land. Language and customs from non-Hawaiians that have taken it over, made their traditions illegal and refuse to acknowledge their reality. The organizers are not Hawaiian and will be benefiting off stereotypes while Hawaiians, experience oppression from the same behaviors.
I just real quick, um, is it actually illegal to practice Hawaiian traditions? Like, is there actually like I'm sure at some point, I'm sure when America first colonized, like, but like if there's any Hawaiian traditions that are still illegal to this day, they're probably something that's kind of maybe should be illegal. I don't know. And that sounds really bad that I'm saying that, but it's like, I don't know, like some severe animal cruelty or
Or
something,
throwing somebody in a volcano or something.
Yeah, I don't, you
Virgin.
know, I don't know, and I'm guessing that the people who are talking about this don't really know themselves, which is why they're going on and on. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I've never heard of I don't really know anything about Hawaiian history beyond what I had looked up for the luau.
mhm.
Um I do know that they practice luau's in Hawaii. It's not always just Hawaiian people. And it's a party. Luau is the word for party.
Yeah.
So I
So
mean, like,
it's not even a full blown like cultural or like religious event
well, no,
even.
it's not like a Native American type deal. It's and people have been throwing luau's forever. Like, of course, everywhere, every dollar store I walk into or grocery store, I'm just like, because I don't know. It's like having a barbecue on the weekend. I think it's just a very chill party they have in Hawaii. It's mostly for people that are there visiting. It may even be silly to them. I don't know.
Huh. Yeah. A lot of the people who complain about these things, like I've said, I think a lot of them are projecting. And like when I got into an argument with this girl that lives in Seattle, who Seattle was all have you did you hear about that band Black Pussy?
Yes, I got into a fight with the booker from my old work over that because somebody he knew kicked their windows out and he was bragging about it on Facebook, and I was
Oh,
like,
good God.
my girlfriend said something, and I'm like, I wanted to, and I wussed out. And then I saw she had, so I was like, all right, fine, I'm gonna back her up. And yeah, he told me like he recorded my band for twice as much because I'm a bitch and all these things. I'm like, wow, you're one hell of a feminist, you twat. Oh my God. Like you charge me double because I'm a bitch. That's not feminist at all, I don't think.
Huh. Yeah, no, that poor band, like they made that name 8 years ago, and 8 years ago was a very different social climate, like people were not PC in, the Bush years. And also, like I think that the name Black Pussy of some straight white guys it's kind of tacky. Like if I was their friend, I would be like, "Oh, really? You're gonna name your band that? Are you guys serious? That's stupid." Like I would have said that.
They don't have enough gay friends, maybe. Yeah,
Yeah,
but in the
yeah.
more hard rock metal scene, honestly, if I saw that patch on somebody's jacket, I don't think it would stand out to me at all. Like
Well,
black
and
something and it's metal. I mean, whatever.
also it like first of all, who cares? Second of all, it's not actually offensive. Like it's not like if it was nasty black pussy, maybe. If it was like I hate black pussy, maybe, but it was just black pussy. They could, for all we know, that they could be talking about a fucking cat, you know? And so anyone who's saying that they're offended by this, they're lying. They're absolutely just lying. And there's a reason why it was fucking a bunch of white people that were offended, mostly in Seattle, from what I know. Um, for whatever reason, Seattle was the people to get up in arms about it.
Oh
And
no, Portland had their tits in a twist over it too. They play down here once in a while. In fact, I think the place they usually play at
I
was
thought they were Portland band.
oh, are they?
Yeah, I think that maybe
I don't
I
know. It's
I'm
metal.
no, I'm pretty sure they're a Portland band, and I think
Yeah,
they.
maybe they got their windows kicked out here. I know that much.
Oh God, well it was okay. 2015 was the year of SJW hell. It was the worst year ever, and anyhow, so and Black Pussy did a pretty good job never apologizing. I'll give them that. I'm glad they never apologized because like they knew that they didn't. I mean, and the guy said some pretty dumb shit in interviews. Like, not I don't disagree with like I don't really care that he said what he said, but he did not sound particularly intelligent, and he didn't sound like he actually bothered to like look into the arguments. Now, granted, I probably wouldn't have either if I was him. He was busy, he was touring and stuff, but he didn't sound all that intelligent. But he basically said, by the end of it, like after all the protests, there was kind of like a follow-up interview, and he basically said that he thought about it and he didn't feel like he had done anything wrong. He left the situation even less convinced that he had done something wrong, and he felt like all the people that were criticizing him, they had something really wrong with them. There was something deeply hurt, something in their psyche and their emotional capacity as people was off, and he felt that they should do DMT and that
Oh
they would
boy.
maybe have a spiritual awakening. And they published that in Jezebel. And so this woman that I knew, she's a SJW, but it's because she's a trans person that is actually like bipolar and has had like full blown mental episodes. And she's just a paranoid person, and I understand that. Like I've always tried to be very nice to her. She posted about it, kind of like, "Oh, this guy's stupid," and then I read what he had to say, and I was like, "Yeah, like he's mostly telling the truth. Like people didn't have to get upset about the band name Black Pussy. It doesn't harm anybody at all." And but I was like, so yeah, he's kind of an idiot. And then this girl, who's a white girl, some fucking white girl, ends up like getting in a big argument with me and like swearing at me right off the bat, just being like, fuck you, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't swear at her. I was way, way the bigger person, because I had been arguing with SJWs since, my whole life. And, but,
You
this,
know how pointless it is then.
well, yeah, but also I was doing it not for the benefit of the girl that I was arguing with, but for the benefit of the girl that was on the timeline of, because it was on a mutual friend's timeline, and I was trying to show her like, hey, you don't have to be paranoid and upset about things. Like it's like you're a trans woman who actually has mental illness, and you've had a psychotic breakdown that's put you in the mental hospital. I get that. And I don't think that the fucking fourth wave feminists are helping you to live your life in a happy way. I think that they're making it worse by making you paranoid all the time. So I was trying to sort of, that was my motivation for posting this. It was like, hey, it turns out this guy's not a bad guy, and maybe the people who are attacking him are worse people. Like, think of that. And then this girl tries to attack me, and she's just like, fuck you, blah 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 blah. And she's just said the stupidest stuff. Like she was like, um I used to think that maybe I ended up trying to tell her, I'm like, look, you're obnoxious, you're attacking people for no reason. Basically, this is exactly why, and this was last year, before Trump had the nomination. This is exactly why people are voting for Trump. It's because of people like you. Like people in other states hear about these stories of Seattle feminists attacking bands for a supposedly offensive band name, and they're like, okay, this has gone too far. And she was like, well, apparently you think that you know something that I don't, but I have news for you. You're just wrong. You're just wrong. And I'm like, well, tell me. T- I'm like, well, tell me why. Explain to me why people aren't getting fed up with this hypersensitive feminist witch hunts against offensive band names. Please explain to me why. And she was like, well, I used to be under the impression that you should be polite to people even if they're doing something harmful. But then I talked to some black feminists, and they told me that if you are polite to a white male who demands that you're polite to them, that's a form of white male patriarchy, white supremacy, because it's demanding that you cater to his form of comfort or some shit like that. And I'm like, okay, like like, and I'm like, just so you know, I know black feminists too, and some of them are some of the nicest people I know, and they would think that you should be nice. They would think that you should try to communicate your points effectively, because this guy didn't listen. He didn't change his band name, and he doesn't feel bad now. So obviously you didn't succeed with whatever little crusade you're trying to get into. And and she probably swore at me a little bit more. And then she said, I don't believe that, you had any valuable conversations with black feminists, because most feminist conversations are in private, where cis men aren't even allowed.
Right.
She said that to me, and then I dominated her in this argument. I totally won the argument, which I tend to, I'm pretty good at arguing on the internet. It's like one of my things. Prince of Queens, don't throw down with Prince of Queens in a text comment thread. I will destroy you. But fucking this girl, she's all shitty, and then she started saying I was a misogynist because I beat her in the argument, and she got my friend to unfriend me. She like started sending her messages saying this guy is only arguing with me because he's a misogynist, which is, that was pathetic. But this was 2015, of course. 2015 was the year that they could actually do this and people would believe it. And the trans girl that I was trying to help, I was trying to help her be a less paranoid person by bringing, a counter, like a level-headed argument to the table. She unfriended me, and then this fucking feminist, this girl, I looked at who she was. Turns out she's a singer in some band. I forget what her band is called, but she owns a gallery. And so, because so she was so upset about this band name Black Pussy, basically, contributing to the campaign of people trying to ruin the careers of them. And I guess that I don't know if she's more upset about the fact that they're white or the fact that they use the word pussy, but her gallery that she owns, she runs a gallery, and the gallery is called Cairo, and it's a fucking Egyptian theme, and she's totally a white girl. So it was like, oh my god, has anybody not ever like brought up the fact that your entire gallery that you own is completely cultural appropriation? Like, and okay, and knowing that she's that crazy of a fourth wave intersectional social justice warrior feminist, she has to have thought about it at some point. She has to have been like, oh shit, I own this gallery that's cultural appropriation of Egypt. Like, because it's
Well,
all
that's
like,
making money then.
yeah, and if you look at their like if you look at their old pictures on their gallery on Facebook, they totally have like, pictures of like pharaohs and like tombs. Like they were totally using the culture and everything. It's not like it's just the name or something. They total full-blown cultural appropriation. I just have to think that she's projecting. She's trying to attack other people because she's scared of being attacked herself. That's all I can make. That's all the sense I can make of it. And I imagine, especially in a place like Portland, is, in terms of cities where there's a big cultural, like art scene and a music scene, Portland is about the whitest of all. Like there's whiter cities in the US, there are, but if there's actually like a whole full-blown music scene where and that kind of thing, Portland is very, very, very white.
I'm from Spokane. It is. There's only 3 Black people there, and I'm friends with 2 of them. So
yeah, but Spokane is not even like, most people haven't even heard of Spokane as a city.
yeah. Well, that's where I did most of my booking. I had only been in Portland for like 2 years when this shit happened.
Mm. Yeah, it's just such a shame that these people are so stupid and destructive and mean. Because, like, we've chatted, and I read your whole account of this, and it's like, I'm like, this girl sounds really cool to me. Like, I'm like, I feel like I would have, like, been, I don't, I'm not sure if I am into the same type of music as you exactly, but like if I was, I would probably wanted to go to the show, and
Well, I did a lot of cross like genres too. That's why I would do different themes. Like, so I could have women, but it might be 3 different genres. Because I've been doing this so long, I get bored easily. So I like to mix things up.
well, I will promise you that someday I will at least come to one of your shows, or we'll do something like that someday.
Well, if there's any anti-PC Portland musicians that even exist, hit me up because I need to
I
start a band.
I think that there is a growing, well, because okay, these people do insane stuff. They okay, like, so for example, this guy that I know in Portland, I mentioned this to you when we first started like emailing. He's a nice guy, but he's like, Latino or whatever. I mean, I don't know him that well, honestly. I've always been cool with him. I always liked him back in the day, but I haven't really had a whole lot of experience with him outside of Facebook. But like like a year or two ago, he started some like queer DJ night with some white girl. Probably, and maybe like he was like a DJ there, but I think she was the head promoter. She actually organized the event and probably dealt with the venue and everything. So she probably actually had the power behind this event. She was probably the one who like officially was calling the shots, because if she's the one dealing with the venue, this is just what I remember from the story. But he was one of the resident DJs. And they did this party for maybe a year or two or so, and it was fairly successful. Then somehow, and this is one of those things where you're never going to know what actually went down. There was some sort of disagreement about payout at the end of one of the nights, and he thought that like he thought that he didn't get paid enough. Like she handed him like $60, and he's like, "What the fuck?" So he demanded that they count all the money together, and I'm sure they're all like wasted. It's like fucking 3:30 a.m. at the point that they're probably having this argument.
Oh,
So you know what I mean? Yeah. Like we're both music industry people. We know how this shit, like when you have that argument about payout, everybody's wasted. So that's like it makes it 10 times as bad. And so they get in this like big fight out of it, and I don't know what happened during that fight. I wasn't there. And afterwards, she decided that she didn't want to do the event with him anymore. She was like, you know what? I'm not doing this event with you anymore. And she kept doing it. But she kept the name of the event the same, because it was like a monthly thing, and it had a following. People would come to it, but he wasn't DJing at it anymore. Well, he went on, and I just know this because I'm his friend on Facebook. He went on to like fucking post repeatedly. Like I saw this come up like numerous times, that he's like saying that everyone should boycott her party because it's racist, because not even because she did anything racist. The only thing racist that she did was supposedly use the hard work of people of color, because he threw the party with her, and then fucking she decided not to do it with him anymore. And he said that, if you're going to do the party, then you should change the name, because I was one of the founding members of the party. And I was friends with him, and I was reading this, and I'm like, dude, you need to get a grip. Like, I never said anything though, because I hadn't talked to him in a long time, and I didn't live in the same city as him. But he kept posting, and it kept being all this drama. And then she would post, and I would kind of side with her in the argument, even though I didn't even know her. She was like, dude, I don't have any obligation to, keep
well,
doing
yeah, in
business.
a court of law, I don't think there's anything that you could say to someone if you were a part of a bigger machine and you got replaced. Like,
And she was the one that had a contract with the venue, and he was just a DJ, you know? Like it was no, but and he brought it up numerous times. Like it was like I heard about it, and he brought it up, and it was crazy, and I was like, really? Did that really happen? And then 6 months later, like 6 months later, he posts again, just so everyone know, don't go to this event because she's a racist. She used me, and I'm a person of color. And it was just like, what the fuck, and so that kind of thing happened in Portland. And it's not like people didn't see that, because he knows a lot of people, and she knows a lot of people. And then just within the past month, this was a really terrible thing that happened. And this is Portland, like two Portland people that I know. This one kid who's this drag queen, that I'm not going to say his name because a lot of people know him. Nice kid, really sweet actually, and to the point where he tried really, 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 really hard to please the social justice warriors, harder than I think was good for him, because I think it got him into the position where, the vast majority of his circle was all social justice warriors. And that's where, you're in trouble if everybody, because he's white. He's really, really femme. Like he might even consider himself genderqueer. I'm not really sure, but he's a drag queen, you know. Um, and he organizes events. And he posted a fucking stupid picture of himself. Um, he had done drag that was kind of inspired by clown makeup. So he had kind of like big white lips that were sort of like clown looking. It was definitely a clown looking thing. And people said that it looked like blackface, even though it was very clearly not blackface. Like you know, it just wasn't. And just because of the lips, you know, like you could, it was very clear. Like, you know, he's white, but it was very clear. And then I didn't even really look at it because, like, honestly, you know, I'm just Facebook friends with him. When people talk about SJW drama on Facebook, I mostly tune it out at this point because I have like over 1,700 friends on Facebook, and you know they're 95% SJWs. So I just fucking ignore it. That's like a number of hundreds of SJWs that I am just tuning out. You know,
That's
um,
something I noticed too, like because of the community I exist in and the certain things I'm involved in, like all of a sudden all I saw on Facebook was all this crap. I actually led to a couple of fights with family members and I finally just backed off completely. It was like stressing me out. I'm like, I can't deal with all this negativity and complaining nonstop.
yeah. Well, and I, you know, this kid that I'm talking about with the supposed blackface thing, I had gotten into some arguments where he was involved with SJWs, and he was actually really sweet about like trying to be a mediator between, because I'm not always a nice guy. If you can imagine, Prince of Queens can be a total fucking dick, and I will fucking, if someone starts with me, you know, like I might have bullied a few kids, but my role mostly during school was the bigger, tougher kid that was friends with the other faggy kids that protected the other faggy kids, you know? So, and that's still the type of person that I am. If someone tries to fuck with someone, I'm like, I'm gonna be the guy that steps up. And if they start trying to fuck with me, I'm just gonna be like, no, don't even try it. And so I will post some mean cutting shit. Like if someone tries to say some mean shit to me on Facebook, especially if it, you know, has to do with somebody else. But this kid was, you know, he was really nice, and he was like, oh, I respect your offense. I respect why you would be offended, and I think we can all move forward. I understand that, you know, this drag queen that you're mad at them for their outfit, that they weren't trying to be offensive and blah blah, you know. And he was like doing everything he could, and he actually did a good job in the past of navigating these situations without people, you know, really coming for him. But when he did that clown makeup, I think that at first he did what they accused you of, which was not being accountable at, because it was obviously not blackface. So he was like, okay, it's very clear this is not blackface because it's not. My face is not black; it's white. You know, um,
That's the
and
kind of shit that makes me want to lock my Siamese cat up in my house because I don't want the little feminist bitches across the street to rip his little brown spot off his face.
so yeah, this kid, he, you know, it happened, and this went on for like the course of a week, that he would post different things about it, and it was like the apologies were never good enough, and he kept posting, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna try to make another apology again. And eventually he was like, this is my last one. I'm not gonna this is my last apology, and I want everyone to know that I don't want to get in, nobody should get in the debate about whether it was offensive or not, because apparently people thought it was offensive, and you know, I need to be accountable for that, and blah 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 blah, basically saying that he deserves everything he was getting. And then people were like still like abusing him and attacking him, and so I was like, I inserted myself, and I'm like, no, fuck this, they cannot continue. Like you didn't even need to apologize, and they're still attacking you. And this was a very public situation. The point I'm trying to make is that these type of things have happened so many times. There has to be a growing pool of people, even in Portland, who are ready to, to start a new scene and to disown the SJWs, because the SJWs eat themselves like starving piranhas to the point where they implode. And the people like you and I, who, we were always into social justice. You were throwing dyke nights and shit, and I was fucking throwing, events in the Bay Area that were like, super, it was like trans people, fucking gay immigrants from Nigeria, fucking like, that's what our scenes were like. We were walking the walk of, in terms of diversity and what they would call intersectionality now. People like you and I were actually doing that. And now they're mostly just talking about it on the internet and attacking people based around it. And I think that there's a lot of people who are realizing that their version is bullshit. And so,
Well,
yeah.
I feel sorry for these people, because like in about the year 2090, 99 was when I probably started going into gay bars. It was before I was a booker, and it was like after, I mean, I had a high school band, but it's not like we were doing any awesome touring or any nonsense like that. And when I would go out at 21 years old by myself, because I always had a friend there. It didn't matter if I knew anybody in the bar, but whoever was in the bar would be my friend within 5 minutes. And everybody got along, and we had so much fun. It was a little gropey, it was a little molesty. There was a lot of shots of tequila and a lot of dancing. But like, if I go into that same environment now, people are like all cornered off in corners.
Oh, everyone hates each other now. Okay, I have one of my best friends in the world. Well, two of my best friends in the world live in Portland. So if I ever come and visit them, you and I should hang out. And one of them, he was in the Bay Area when I lived there, and we had a lot of fun in the Bay Area. And then he moved up to Portland when around the time that I moved away from the Bay Area. And he was one of the people that, like, I was always completely honest about the SJWs and the feminists, and like we would talk and they're like, yeah, doesn't it seem like they're assholes? Like, doesn't it seem like? And we talk, and he says that even the people that he used to know, 5 years ago or so, that were really nice people, everybody's closed off. Nobody's real friends with each other anymore. This new moral panic, SJWism, and fourth wave feminism has made everybody, no one has any fun anymore. It's not like it's just, oh, it's just the white people are complaining or some stupid shit. He's not even white, and like, it's that literally everybody is paranoid about offending each other all the time, or they're just angry because they want to be offended or something like that, and people are miserable. And it is really a shame. But more and more people are starting to realize, hey, wait, we don't have to play this game. We can avoid it. And then, people find YouTube is where it's at in terms of the resistance against it, which is pretty awesome.
Well, it should have been my choice. The paper you read, I'm still in a battle. I have an appointment with the dean for
Wait,
writing.
what for the writing that paper?
Well, the paper was for my English class, and the instructor had told me that feminism was too broad, so I had to narrow it down. And it was like, I kept telling her, I'm like, I don't know, I feel like maybe this isn't a good subject, because I felt like, well, first of all, when I had posted my original idea that feminism was bad, I was told by the teacher that literally I was exactly, me saying that all feminists are bad is the same as saying all Muslims are terrorists. This was inside an online chat group in front of all my all the other students in the class. And I had two of the girls in the class come after me too, like, feminism is close to my heart. I mean, they didn't really say anything poignant or of interest, just basically that I'm the devil, and they had no reason for it. So I tried to back off, but anyway, she got me to narrow it down to feminism is a cancer on the Portland music scene. And I had written about my experience, and then the experience of a few other people around me.
Huh.
And now I'm fighting the school. So I'm like, wow. And I have communication between me and the instructor where I'm verbally saying, like, before I get into the meat of the paper, maybe I should do something else. And she wanted to be a booker, so she loved the music scene thing.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, English instructors don't understand how music scenes work or what elements in the city are involved. And so it was really easy
Um,
to say I didn't know what I was talking about.
okay, so I would say so you know I was like largely a like academic person overall. I would say I graduated with a bachelor's in 2004 when I was 22, you know, like right on track like you're supposed to or whatever if you're supposed to be like a academic. But by the time I graduated, I was like, I'm never going back to school. I will never get a graduate degree. But I went to a writing school and in a liberal arts college that was particularly supposed to be very good for, you know, humanities and social sciences. And so lots of feminists and stuff were there. I will say that academia, especially things like English, social sciences, you know, like sociology and gender studies, of course, and anything having to do with that type of field in actual schools now is dominated by people that aren't actually really that great at what they do, like the English teachers that are getting paid, but the biggest prerequisite to actually be teaching at in higher education at community colleges or universities in these subjects is that you have to fall in line with the moral code. That's what you have to really do. Because the thing is, kids are better at English and writing than they ever have been because of the internet. The internet trains you automatically to be a writer. You know, so people that are growing up, you know, you were a rocker your whole life, and that's what you did, and that's like a whole world. But the people who are probably teaching in academia, they were just people that were like on social, they were on fucking MySpace all of last decade, and that was like all they did. So, like, not only are these people not aware of your world as somebody who's, you know, been in the music scene and nightlife, but like the people who are really good at writing and things they're bloggers, but you have to fall in line with the morals but on that too. But a lot of them are also, you know, doing YouTube channels and stuff like that, like, you know, teaching in academia in English. I would, you know, like I have a nephew who's gonna, you know, graduate college high school within the next couple of years, and I'm going to tell him not to go to university right now, specifically, like because of, you know, unless he wants to study computer science or something, which I don't think he does. Just because of the way the university system is so weird and stupid right now, and I've seen that change, you know, since I graduated. I think the internet has made a lot of things obsolete and forced the university system and to be something it shouldn't have been. Is my but that is that's something I could go into for a long time, and I don't want to really get into exactly why, but that's my perception of it. Um,
Well, it's pretty infuriating to do the, you know, something your whole life and then have somebody like tell you that you're wrong just because your beliefs don't make them happy. That I got told that I used a lot of inflammatory language, and I would think, well, you read my paper, but you're also in the music scene and you know the same kind of people I do. I'm not sure if they think just bringing up people that aren't straight is inflammatory or what their deal is with that, but
Yeah, well, no, okay. I think that when they say things like inflammatory language, what they really mean is that you don't agree with them. Because I've been in so many insane arguments with SJWs, and the way I get treated, you know, like the shit that they'll say to me. Like I'll have a mutual friend who's a fucking feminist, and then I'll get in an argument with a hardcore feminist, you know, like my mutual friend drinks the Kool-Aid and everything, but she knows that I'm smart. She knows that I'm generally like I'm mostly want to be a nice guy, and you know that I actually know my shit, and so but maybe she thinks we live in a full-blown patriarchy. Maybe she thinks some stupid shit. And then I get in an argument on her timeline and someone is like, well, obviously the patriarchy controls everything. And I'm like, well, we don't actually really live in a patriarchy in the West. We live in a globalized corporatist society in which are more important than any individual ruler, and there are no actual legal barriers in which, like that make it so that men are actually the rulers, or white people. And then the person is like, look, bro, I don't need your fucking mansplaining, okay, asshole. Like that's what they say. And I'm like, okay, that's certainly really rude. I'm gonna ignore that for the moment and just try to explain that, I actually really study feminism. I've been studying it very, very heavily, especially over the past year and a half. And just because I'm a man doesn't mean that I can't actually learn about something. And then the girl is like, fuck you, bitch. And then I'm like, okay, you know what, you need to fucking go to hell. Like, you are a total jerk. And I was trying to have a conversation on my friend's timeline, and you just happen to sort of be here. And then my friend, who I thought was my friend, will be like, you know what, Prince, you really need to learn on being like, work on being condescending. I don't appreciate how condescending you are to my friends. And it's like, what? You're getting mad at me? You know, I like, okay, I bothered to write a paragraph explaining my position, and your friend called me a bro, and so told me to stop mansplaining, and somehow like I'm the one that's in trouble. Like, and that's what I'm saying about the moral purity of English teachers. They don't care about your inflammatory language. If one of your friends wrote a paper about, like sexual, or not friends, but classmates, if they wrote a paper about like sexual assault or something, and, we're writing nasty things about rapists, I'm sure they would love the paper. It's in, because college is fucking, seriously, unless you're studying, there's only, no, colleges these days, they really, really are a moral, like you have to be an SJW to be involved in them. And I say this not as somebody just, observing, but I know a lot of people who are adjunct professors. Oh, and that's the other fucked up thing, is that, there's this whole system where people aren't able to actually make a living as an academic anymore. People like your teacher probably barely scrapes by, and a lot of them have to work part-time on the side. And I think they're doing that on purpose. They're keeping these people, because we have a whole generation of people who went to college to be like writers and, feminists and stuff, and now there's no real jobs for them. So the supply and demand is very weird, and we have all these people who like are like, well, I better get a job teaching. But there's so many people who are qualified. Like, I could fucking teach college. Are you kidding? I could teach a dozen things. Well, not a dozen, but I could teach like 2 or 3 things at college, like easily. I could easily teach electronic music. I could easily teach playwriting. But the thing is, there's a lot of people who could. There's a lot of people who could teach these things, and so they're gonna pick the person that is easiest to control, the person who falls in line with their ideology and that kind of thing. So it's extremely and like the University of Chicago tries to say, hey, we're in the University of Chicago is a good school. They try to come out and say, we're not going to do trigger warnings this year. Don't expect trigger warnings.
Oh, I loved that too. I'm like, how do I enroll?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's hard to get into that school, and you're going to be in debt for the rest of your life unless you become a fucking CEO. But, but yeah, it would be great to go there. I mean, it sounds pretty fucking sweet. But no, but their kids were protesting. They were livid. They were like so people, like, culture has gotten so like that, and I think it's a weird thing where like most people aren't like that. Like most people are not like that and will never be like that. But in order to get certain types of jobs, in order to get types of jobs that people think that they want, like, being a professor or being a blogger or, creative professionals, blah, blah, blah. If you're going to be a creative professional or you're going to be a teacher, you're going to be creating or teaching the thing that they want you to teach or create. And that's the fucking bottom line right now. So, but there's a big rebellion, and that's awesome. So,
well, I changed my major from psychology to, I don't know, something in science because I can't. I took a women's studies class the first quarter. I was back. I'm finishing stuff from a long, long time ago.
mm-hmm.
You can't even ask questions. You will fail if you ask questions. You must just swallow the Kool-Aid and throw it back up on the paper.
Yeah,
Oh
my God. I went to the university. You know who Anita Sarkeesian is?
Yes.
I went to the fucking university that gave Anita Sarkeesian an honorary degree within the past year.
Gross.
Yeah, which is to my deep, deep shame. But my school was good when I went to it. And my classes were 15 students or less, and all we would fucking do is sit there and ask questions and debate. And we would debate the fucking teacher. We'd be like, I don't think that's true, blah, 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 blah. And that was what was good about my school. Now, apparently, they're giving honorary masters to people who say, listen and believe. I'm going to mute my mic for a second. Talk.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Well, I guess I could finish up the end of this flyer. Their last and final complaint with me is that it was not a lesbian party, lesbian in parentheses. The organizers do not have a demonstrated history of supporting or listening to the needs of lesbian, queer, and or trans individuals. Many queer community members do not appreciate individuals using identities to make a profit without serving our queer communities. I'm not sure which part of this is the most hilarious. The part where when I first saw it, my trans friend was sitting with me in my house burning a bowl and we laughed our asses off. Whatever on that note. I'm not a lesbian. No, I'm not. I'm also not a straight person. I don't know if you're really supposed to be what your party is. I mean, I've thrown metal shows. I'm not metal. I've thrown hip hop shows. I'm not hip hop. There's a lot of things I'm not that I support and have put together. Now, the not appreciating individuals using their identities to make a profit without serving the queer community. Now, as a booker for so many years on a local level, I know there are people that are successful and probably live off what they're making. I don't know how. I assume they work 24 hours a day. I do not have that luxury or desire. My band made enough money to drive to Seattle to play a benefit, and then we donated the money we got. As a booker, I always paid out my bands 100%. Part of the reason was because I could book a good show, and then I made my money as a bartender, because I know how hard it is to make money as a band. And 30-40 bucks is pretty average per band for about 3 bands. Sometimes the cover was super low, but I've never made a profit. So I basically was doing all that out of the kindness of my heart.
Yeah, I know all about it. Definitely, like, fucking, if I would get paid $50 to do a show, like, I would be stoked. Like, it was always like,
no, 50 bucks is a good payout. But that's a performer, the only reason I talk about it on both ends is because I have booked the shows, but also promoted shows that I didn't book but was a part of.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. Like, no, what I am doing is serving your queer community by not, like the place I worked at was considered a punk rock venue and also kind of a queer place. But, I was putting these bands together and, getting all the people to show up. So, like, I did finally tell one of these girls that are, excuse me, one of the Z's or whatever's, that, I never saw you complaining at my other shows. And of course, that shut him right down. I was like, well, you don't know who's booking everything you go to. I like how they presume things about me and use it to shut me down, but do you really know who's behind the scenes of everything you do? That's just nonsense.
Mhm. Yeah, no, okay. Well, for the record, I think that you're doing what I think exactly what you should be doing. And I hope that I would more than encourage you to maybe make a YouTube channel and talk about, these type of experiences more. Because there's a growing audience, and I think that there's a lot of community building. We're going to talk to some of my friends. Apparently they want to get in on the hangout. Probably not live, but and
Well, Milo's coming through in a few months or whatever. I actually know another digital DJ type guy who lives here who's also into that. It would be fun to go as a small pack and just watch people freak out.
oh, at the Milo Yiannopoulos.
Yeah, he's coming to speak at one of the Portland colleges.
At when is that?
I will have to Google that. It's either November or January. I think it's January. It's not for a minute because he's on
Oh,
this.
he's just going on. Okay, I thought he was all just doing it for Trump, but maybe he's gonna be doing it. Okay, so I'm gonna post. I'm gonna finish up this actual live stream. I'm gonna post the link into the chat so that some people can come in and we can talk. Because at least two people want to come in and hang out for a little bit, and I still have a bunch of whiskey. We can maybe play some online games or something, which are pretty fun, unless you have to go.
I
Um,
don't. I do need to leave for half a second though because I have misplaced something that I'm very sad about, and I can't get my son to find it for me.
okay, well,
Is now a good time to do that?
you can totally do that right now. I'm gonna post the hangout in the sidebar, um, and I'm gonna go offline in probably like 5 minutes. And people are gonna come in and into it. So I'm just gonna talk. Did you go already?
No, I don't. No, I'm here.
Go now, and I'll just talk and wrap up a little bit.
Okay. Did you find it?
Okay, so just if anybody is just tuning in, please do check out this whole live stream. Adrienne Hitchcock is a very cool person. She is a rocker chick that's been, in bands since like the '90s and never really considered herself a feminist, like many of the rational people, but knew a lot of feminists back when feminism in the '90s was largely a bunch of girl rockers, and they were mostly pretty cool. I knew them and they were fine, like, and I don't even know how much they really knew the people who called themselves feminists who were girl rockers in the '90s. I don't really know how much they knew about the theories of feminism. I don't know how many feminist books they were actually reading. They were just girls that wanted to, be treated equal, and a lot of the guys in the music scene didn't always treat them equal. So that's what it was like. And then fast forward to until 2015, Adrian throws an event that they thought was not PC, even though like there's really no good reason to think it wasn't, and they fucking attacked her like really really bad. So she talks about that in this live stream, and I'm very glad to have met her, and I'm glad that she came on my channel. So yeah, and Base Mama and Casey, get in this fucking stream so I can stop the live. I posted it in the side chat.
Am I supposed to hit that too?
You don't have to do anything.
Okay. Hey, I read feminist books in high school. I really tried hard to read a Gloria Steinem book, and that might have been why I didn't identify as a feminist, because I actually did look into it and didn't agree.
Huh. Oh, so Ashlyn wants to get in. I can. Oh, shit. Now I'm starting to like. Oh, Casey's here! Yay!
What's up?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. Is my audio
It's
coming
late
good?
where you are, huh? Sound
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, yeah. It's good. How's it going, buddy?
Good. Let me just send it to Ashlyn and why? Uh, Ashlyn. No. Okay. Based Base Mom. Just so you know, I'm sending it to you in email because I have your actual email. Um, and where the fuck is? Okay, I don't know if I know Ashlyn's. Ashlyn, what? I want to be able to send it to you, Ashlyn, but I don't know. Um, um, maybe. Wait. If I find Ashlyn, I don't know how to use Hangouts that well. Maybe if I search. No, I don't know it. Does someone have Ashlyn's fucking number or not number, but like email or whatever? Oh, why won't it let you in? Base mom, base mom, I sent it to you in Casey got in. That's weird.
Male privilege shit.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Shit.
but no, but okay, I can get I did email it to you, base mama. I emailed. Okay, Ashlyn, post your fucking email. I don't want this stream to be too long because people won't watch it. But it's not even 2 hours yet, so I think we'll be fine. But Ashlyn, I want you to post your email in the chat, and then I'll email it to you. How about that?
Oh shit.
Okay, base mama, you totally have my Gmail, and you can send me some sort of chat message, or you can send me an email if it's but so base mama and I are cool. I just want to make sure Ashlyn and I are cool. Shit. Fucking hell. God damn it. Okay, Ashlyn, Ashlyn Cohen, hold up. Let me just make sure. Fucking hell. I email. What are you laughing about?
It's such a fucking struggle to
Hey,
get a
hookers.
fucking.
Oh, I think I got it. Hey, I think I got it. Okay, I found Ashlyn Cohen, and I sent it to her. Okay, I'm closing this fucking
Nuke
this
the
is.
stream.
Oh, hey, Mama's here. Cool. Okay, I'm nuking the stream. Bye, 6 viewers.
Bye, horse.
Bye.